Hey everyone, my name is Naima and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I have my June wrap up. I only read 6 books this month, which I was so shocked to find out because I usually read no less than 10 books a month. So this was very shocking for me. I think I didn't read that much just because there were so many things going on, and I did a lot of traveling. I went to Ocean City for Beach Week. I then went camping with some of my cousins, and now I'm here in New Orleans. This month, all in all, was just a crazy month for me. So I am challenging myself in July to read around 30 books. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I want it to happen so badly because I just bought so many books and I just need to read them. And I know it's doable. Like, I'm gonna get a lot of audiobooks and I'm really gonna challenge myself. Also, I saw on TikTok these girls like challenge themselves to read like 60 books that month, and they posted all of the books that they read on their TikTok. So I'm really inspired and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to read 30 books. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna do it. So without further ado, let's get into all the books that I read in June. So the first book that I read in June was Crowned by Hate by Amo Jones, and I gave this book 5 stars. I don't know really why I gave it 5 stars. Thinking back on it, I didn't like it that much, and plus this was part 1 of the Crown duology, and I just realized I didn't even read the second one. So why did I give it 5 stars? I don't know, because usually when I read duets I kind of just jump right into the next one. So yes, but this is about this girl. She's the president's daughter, and she did something really bad in her past, and that what she did is coming back to bite her in the butt now. She has to marry this guy who she did something very bad to, and if she doesn't go through with the marriage, he will send out the video of her doing that bad thing to everyone, which is very bad because, again, she's the president's daughter and anything she does will reflect badly on him. So yes, I really did enjoy this book. The character, though, I forget her name. She was kind of try-hard badass, which I didn't really like that much. Not exactly try-hard badass, but just like I'm not like other girls type of girl. But I did really enjoy it. Amo Jones is one of my favorite authors, so yes, I cannot wait to read the second book. There were lots of plot twists, and it just was very unexpected what happened. The next book that I read was Black Knight by Rena Kent. I gave this book 3 stars and I was so disappointed in it. If you watched my mid-year freakout tag, you would see that was like one of my biggest disappointments. I was so excited for this book. This is book 4 in the Royal Elite series. I did really like it, but it was just got to a point where it was just very weird, and like I don't want to spoil it, but Rena kind of did something, and when she did that one thing, like I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was just very bad. So yes, I gave it 3 stars. I just found it too bizarre, too weird, and unrealistic. But this is actually about the best friends of the main characters in the first 3 books. The characters' names are Kim and Xander, and there are trigger warnings for, what are the trigger warnings? Like an eating disorders, and I believe that's it. It was just a very, very dark romance. I love dark romances. It started off really good. I was really gonna like it. It was kind of enemies to lovers, but I did not end up liking it that much in the end because of the one little plot twist that she threw in there. It was just too weird for me. But yeah, so I gave that book 3 stars. The next book that I read was The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty, and I actually read this when I went camping with my family. It was a thriller and it was so good. I really enjoyed it. This was my first thriller, and it's basically set in Australia about 3 different women. There's a grandma, there's a lady who just found a letter from her husband saying like, open this in the event of my death, and then the third girl who just found out that her husband was cheating on her with her cousin. So it was very good. There was lots of plot twists. I realized that I really like domestic thrillers, so I'm trying to read more of those. So if you have any domestic thriller recommendations, please leave them down below. I don't think I'd like really high energy crazy thrillers. I really like the suburban feel, like in Big Little Lies. And yeah, so recommend me more thrillers, but I really like this book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book I read was Dreams of 18 by Saffron A. Kent. And this is basically about this girl named Violet, and Violet is very unnoticed. Her family doesn't notice her. She has really no friends at school. And one summer when she was 16, a son and a father moved into the house next door, and right away she was instantly attracted to the older father. She wanted to know him. She wanted to be around him. Saffron Kent gets inspired by Lana Del Rey a lot in her books, and you could tell just by like the vibe of it. It's kind of like, it was very forbidden, obviously. Also, I forgot to mention, he actually coached her school's football team, so yes, it was very like forbidden. And I think that's what I like about Saffron Kent. If you want a good forbidden romance, check out Saffron Kent. Her vibe is very Lana Del Rey-esque. I don't know, you get what I mean, like kind of like daddy issues type, and I really enjoyed that. So yes, I gave this book 4 stars. It was very good. She ends up doing something very bad on her 18th birthday, and which ends up with the dad having to move away and her having to go to a psychiatric hospital. So it was very wild, very good. That was actually book 2 in the Heartstone series, and I'm currently reading book 1 right now, which is Medicine Man. So yeah. The next book I read was From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I actually posted a reaction blog for this, so check that out if you're interested. There are spoilers. This book surprised me. I only read one other fantasy before this book, which is The Cruel Prince, and I didn't like it, but I read this and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. It's basically about this girl named Poppy, and she's the maiden of her world, and maidens aren't allowed to be looked, touched, spoken to. Basically, they have to live as purely as possible, and for her ascension to the gods. And Poppy doesn't really know what that means, to ascend to the gods, and she's kind of freaked out by it, and she doesn't really have a life, so she is trying to experience things before she has to ascend to the gods because she doesn't know what that means. And she actually ends up getting into a situation with one of her guards named Hawk, and it was just so good. It's like a bodyguard romance type, forbidden romance. It was so good, and I can't wait to check out more of Jennifer L. Armentrout's work. And the second book is coming out in September. I'm so excited. It left off on a huge cliffhanger. There were so many plot twists. You should really read this if you are interested in fantasy and like romance, because this book was so good. And the last book that I read in June was Beatrix by Emily Henry. I absolutely adored this book. It was so good. It's basically, I swear, like everybody knows what it's about, but I'm just gonna explain it anyway. I actually read this for the Page Turners Book Club, which is hosted by Mare from Mare Reads, Jess from Books Past Bedtime, and Katie from Katie and Her Cats. Their book club, and I decided to read this because I love them all, and I absolutely adored this. If it weren't for them, I probably wouldn't have picked this up. But it is basically about this girl named January. January is staying at her dad's beach house, and I don't know how to explain it. It's so complex, but she's staying at a beach house, and Augustus is her next door neighbor, and they actually know each other from back in college where they were kind of enemies. They're both writers. She writes women's fiction and romance, and he just writes, I think, like thrillery type of books. I don't know. And they're polar opposites. I'm just reading this from the back. I literally don't know how to explain it. There's so much into this book. They're both in writing slumps, and so just to get out of their slumps, they decide to switch genres and to write each other's genres. So yes, it's their romance. It was so good. There's a lot more that goes into this book. Like January's father recently died, and he has a bunch of issues himself, and it was just so good. I loved it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. Sorry, I don't know how to explain this better, but it was just amazing. And yes, So that wraps up everything that I read in June. Let me know if you read any of these books this past June and tell me your opinions on them. And also tell me one of your favorite books that you read this past June as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like this video. As always, there will be a link down below for Black Lives Matter. And yes, so goodbye. Thank you so much for watching.